Good morning. Top of the day. Yo, I'm sitting here reflecting back on, a lot of different situations that transpired in my life, namely when I was in my addiction. When we lived on Dagger Street out in Philadelphia, like our NA community, like I said in a previous video, I had graduated the drug program Everything Must Change through Divine Light with Sakina Dean and Dow Robinson. And in the course of being in that program, we came across, I met like a couple of people, a lot of people that was a part of the program. I met Angie and her dude Rob. I met Tradell Weiss and fucking Charles. Well, they got married after the fact. I met Dwight and Stephanie. I met Soto. I met Otis. A couple of other people, Lewis. And like when I had relapsed, when we was living on Dagger Street, I had relapsed, and I remember this one particular situation, like, cause out of all of the people that was in the program, the ones that stayed connected to me and Mark Prince, Mark Marquise, whatever the hell he was calling himself at that time, it was Charles and Tradell and Dwight and Stephanie that we had like the main contact with or whatever. So they was, coming around. But this one particular night, I remember like it just was like a whole bunch of weird ass movement going on. Cause one time Charles had came over to the house and he was all like all over the place and oh Marquis, you gotta help me, da 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 da. And I didn't know what the hell was going on, but they had left and they was gone for a long ass time or whatever. I really didn't know what the hell he was into when he had left from the house because he used to go out there and don't come home for days and just be doing all type of reckless ass shit. But come to find out, once he did come home and shit, I'm like, yo, what's going on with what's up with Charles and everything? Now, mind you, Charles and Tradell had got married and then they had a little boy named Masai. Well, that's what they said was going on, but we was like still early into our recovery or whatever, and it was a whole bunch of like static going on with that situation because they was like trying to tell them that it was that they wasn't ready for marriage and was asking them are you sure this and that or whatever. But that's neither here nor there. Tradell had like 6 7 kids or something like that. She had a lot of kids, and her and Charles winded up having Masai, and it was a lot of stress. Like once Tradell had Masai, you could see like the tension and the stress all in Charles' face, and he winded up relapsing because he was over our house like fucking blowing it down like it wasn't nobody business. But what my I had asked Marquise, aka Mark, my children's dad, like what was going on with Charles. And he said that Charles had winded up getting a young girl pregnant or whatever, and that Tradell was going to kill his ass if she found out that he had got a young girl pregnant. Like, not no, like, couple of years younger than Tradell, like a young girl type shit. And they was trying to come up with ways. They was trying to come up with ways to get the girl to have an abortion or whatever. Now, I know that Mark and fucking Charles being the friends that they was, or the cool buddies or whatever the hell they did in their extracurricular time, um, that they hustled up this money to get the girl an abortion. Whether she got the abortion or not, I have no clue. But I know that Charles was scared shitless to fucking tell Tradell what the hell was going on. Now, I don't know because Dwight, he gossiped like a little bitch and shit like that. And at one point before like the whole graduation or whatever, when he was running the recovery house, he was the head person over the house that um Mark was staying in. Mark and all of them was staying in. But they all was still into a whole bunch of like behind the scenes type shit was going on. And Dwight and Stephanie had already been married or whatever, so you know, he thought he was, I don't know, they thought that it was hot shit or whatever. But me, I respected every damn body. I got along with everybody. Like, I didn't have no personal preference until like people started showing their ass, and like, I don't know, just stuff just rubbing me the wrong way where I pulled back from a lot of people or whatever. Anywho, after I had relapsed, like I said, Charles and them would come over to the house, and at one point they had took Sanique with them because I had relapsed and I was all fucked up. But this was before, you know, Charles had relapsed or whatever. It was a whole bunch of like confusion and a whole bunch of shit going on. But I had went after I had got like after the fact I had got put out, whatever. Like I had went to Trudell and Charles in them house or whatever, because I ain't know where the hell Mark was at. I don't know whether he was locked up or ripping and running the streets or doing whatever the hell he was doing. But it was me and Sanique. We had went over there to stay, and they made me feel so awkward and shit, like complaining about food being eaten and just all type of crazy ass shit. Like I'm washing the dishes, straightening up, doing my part, trying to keep, the space that they allowed me to be in as clear as possible and shit, and not being in the way or whatever. But the kids, like the teenagers and shit, try to like talk down on me, like making fun, and cause I ain't have nothing. But the whole thing is, the whole while, I knew what Charles had did as far as him having that baby outside of him and Trudell. Like, I couldn't deny that fact or whatever. But my thing is, I didn't want to get in the mix of the shit. But like, if I'm sitting here looking at it now, I'm just as motherfucking wrong in the situation, because I knew that they was married, and I didn't say nothing about me knowing that this man came to my house to tell my children's dad that he had got a young girl pregnant outside his marriage. Like, I don't know, that just sits some type of way with me. But what I do want to say is, I know that in the same breath, because I had relapsed in the place that I was in, I knew that my grandfather had passed away around the time when I was still living in Philadelphia, and I found out about it on Facebook scrolling. And it hurt me because it was like, damn, I'm not even together to be going to attend my grandfather's funeral. It had already happened. But the crazy shit was, all of the fucking family that I have Facebook subscribed, Morris side, they was friends with me on Facebook, and not one of them reached out to me to let me know that my papa passed away. And not one time, while they were, what I mean, still friends with me after I had got clean when I went to live in Asbury, did they tell me, about a family reunion. Like, they purposely and intentionally kept me out of shit. But I say that to say, like, my papa passed away when I was living in Philadelphia. Now, mind you, I know that Mark is connected to the Smalls family and the freaking all of them, the Durants and all of them, you know. They all interconnected, and the Durants and the Smalls is all interconnected, and they know my mom. Like, it's a small ass town, so everybody know everybody. But anywho, I know that some kind of way, this is how my money got stolen. Now, Shakita knows my children's dad, just like she knows people that's on the small side of the family, because like back in the day, Alicia was hanging out with me and Shakita, and my dad had came over there blacking out like, I don't want her to fuck over here with, he was saying with me, or I don't know whether it was with me or with Shakita, but I'm like, I didn't even do nothing to her. Like, I was excited, like this was in my younger, like in my teens or some, like in my late teens, early 20s or whatever, when this incident had taken place, and I was trying to figure out like, what the hell did I do so wrong? Like, why can't she be over here or whatever? I don't know what the hell that shit was about, but I do know that Shakita has a long standing freaking relationship with that side of the family as well as everybody else, because she always in somebody fucking business and always trying to insert herself in a lot of shit. I also know that like everybody know everybody. Paulette Small, like all of them. And I also know that me hanging out with Patrice and stuff, she connected to him because her brother EB had a baby with Paulette Small. And they all of them is all into the same shenanigans and stuff like that. They like to drink, they like to get high, drinking and smoking weed and shit like that, and fucking gossiping and being in each other business, and doing all of the shit that low vibrational people do. How do I know? Because I used to be a low vibrational person hanging around with these fucking people until, you know what I mean, I started wanting different and wanting to really truly work on myself. Like, I've always been who I've been. I've always had a good heart. I've always, you know what I mean, been myself. But at that time, like, I was more of a people pleaser and a pushover, and all type of shit. When I really sit back and I look at it, I say that to say, it's like, because Asbury Park is so like tight and intricately connected, like the whole fucking town knew the whole while about, first of all, the money that my grandfather had left in the will when he passed away, as well as like, and then like when he passed away, like other family members were still living and shit, but they knew about what was going on because I wasn't around. So what did they do? They all got behind the scenes and started switching up shit and paperworks and all of this and all of that. What I do know is that before my dad passed away, he went with Aunt Lolita to freaking go get saved or whatever. I don't know whether that was like, something for him to try to restore all of the crazy ass shit that he had done, but the last time I had physically seen my father alive was January 1st of 2007. And then I found out that on the 23rd of January he was deceased. Now, I was supposed to go, and they were like planning like a little birthday thing for him or whatever, because he was talking about, like, my dad liked chocolate cake with chocolate icing, and that's what he had wanted my stepmother to make him. I don't know what it was, but something kept telling me like, don't don't go over there, but to focus on what it was that my dad had told me to do. And he was like get over like the beef that me and Craig had at the time, and take care of Marquise. That was like his main focus or whatever. So while that conversation was had the last time, like I said, was on the January 1st. That's what I had started working on doing, like connected with Craig and his sister and shit like that. And I missed his birthday party, but I know that in the course of that birthday party, I know that I have the picture of everybody that was there with him during this time. And it was my Uncle Carl, my dad, Melina, Uncle Derek, Uncle Daryl, and I'm trying to think, was it Uncle Derek's boyfriend? at the time. I forget. I don't know. No, it wasn't David. I forget who the hell his boyfriend was at the time or whatever, but somebody had to take the damn picture. You hear me? So I know that all of them were in on bringing my dad's death down faster. Now, Melina had called me, like, because my dad was in the hospital or whatever. He had to go to a rehabilitation center to, because he had like a fucking golf ball, a grapefruit sized tumor on his back, and he had to go and get it taken out or whatever. So he went to the rehab center or whatever. Then he was able to come home, and then through rehabilitation he started being able to walk again, and that was a good thing. But then the next thing I know, like all of a sudden my dad can't get up and shit. Now, how it happened, I have no motherfucking clue or whatever, but I know that my dad was incapable of standing and walking anymore after he had proven to be doing so good with his rehabilitation. Now, what I do know is like he was strong and healthy given the fact that my dad, had AIDS or whatever, and prostate, come to find out he had prostate cancer and shit like that. And he didn't want to get the surgery because he said he a man and he came in this world with his testicles and he wanted to leave out here with him. Like, that was his choice. But in the course of it, my dad's health started declining like real, like rapidly. Even though my dad had AIDS and shit like that, like before all of this stuff had happened, like he was still up, mobile and functioning, doing what he had to do, going out there doing, his little side jobs and going, cause all my uncles and shit, like they worked, my uncles, my dad, they worked in gutting houses, doing demolition and shit like that. So that's what he was doing. In the meantime, in between time, like his little hustles and shit. And then next thing I know, my dad can't fucking walk. Then he was admitted into the hospital. Now, what's crazy is Melina had called me when he was in hospice, and she said that my dad didn't want to be in the hospital no more. He wanted to go home, and he said that if he gonna go home, that's what he wanted. Now, knowing that I'm the one that had a say so, obviously, because she had to call me to get permission because I'm his only fucking listed fucking offspring after he died from here. So I was like, I would, like, at the time I couldn't take care of my dad and bring him in and stuff like that. And she was willing to do it. So, they got a place, they had a place on 250 Murder or whatever. And my dad was sent home to be taken care of. Now, they had a health aide that was scheduled to go out there to go see my dad. And I think I seen this lady one time come to my dad's house, but then I had asked like what happened to her, and it was said that like she wasn't doing this and she wasn't really needed and all of this and all of that. But as I'm sitting here now and me knowing like how wicked and cruel and vicious people will be when money is involved, I believe, because I used to go over my dad's house and stuff before he even was really fucked up like that. And I used to go over there and just smoke with my dad, talk with him and shit like that. Cause all of my life I never had him in my life. So when I finally did run back into him when I got grown, I tried to cherish those, those moments that I could with him and be able to ask all of the questions that I wanted to ask before he left from here, and I wouldn't be able to ask him physically. So, and she used to cook for us and shit like that. So now that I'm thinking back on it, this motherfucker was trying to poison both me and my dad at the same time. Like, my dad was cremated, and then she kept the ashes or whatever. So I can't even take those ashes for them to be like studied or, ran tests on or anything like that to find out exactly what happened with my dad, because I don't know who was there with her when my dad passed away, because she said that when she woke up, my dad was laying next to her and he was dead. I don't know. But I do know that, like, she was all fucked up and shit. And I was seeing her, like, here and there. Because at that time, I had was, like, dibbling and dabbling and sniffing coke at that time. After my dad had passed away, I was sniffing coke and drinking like it was going out of style. But I had fucking met original Michael Peoples, and he introduced me to smoking crack. And, like, that was the connection, because they had, like, Michael and Melina had, like, conversation and interaction or whatever, because if that's what, like, my dad's woman, I think that they got married. I'm not quite sure. um but I looked at her like, that's my stepmom or whatever. And they had, conversation, connection or whatever, because of my daughter, my Joy. But eventually I had moved on from, the whole situation, because me and the original had broke up or whatever. And I was all over the place when I was out there getting high. I can't even sit here and try to lie to myself like I was some perfect angel. So after me and original had broke up, I had moved in with my ex Black. But I was fucking with Black before I even knew original or any of that shit. But it was crazy because, like, I ain't know none of this shit was going on. Nothing. So I had continued on going about my business, getting into trouble and shit like that. Got locked up. Last time I got locked up was and I got released. I believe it was in September 2009. And like, I had bumped back into Mark Scott. So from that time of being around, like, all of them to bumping into Mark Scott, I was taken to Willenboro. I mean Browns Mill, was it Brown? No, Willenboro, with with Mark, to his Uncle Wallace house and stuff. And kind of find out I wasn't even supposed to be in his house. Like, he was saying, like, his Uncle Wallace had said, yeah, I could come stay there, until I could go into a program and stuff like that, which was totally a lie, because when Uncle Wallace found out that I was in the house, he had called Aunt Jean. Well, that's what I know her as, Aunt Jean, Charlotte Derrico. And she lived in Virginia. Her and Uncle Wallace had two separate houses or whatever, but they were still married. I don't know. But we had to leave. And then from there, he took me to Camden. I don't even want to get into that Camden story, like, all in depth. Like, I had started one part of it earlier in the video. But I have been on a roller coaster ride with shenanery and stuff like that, and took part in, like, crazy ass shit. But one thing I never wanted to do was be a evil, malicious person, vindictive to the point where I wanted to plot and take nobody off this planet, or, still continue to live in a malicious mindset. Even though I was freaking getting high and shit like that, like, I still had some type of something about myself where I didn't want to be completely lost in that world. I was, like, focused on, like, constantly ripping, running, going to get the drug, smoking, being around people that smoking. And the majority of people at the time, they was out there selling butt to get it. And I just didn't want to do that. Like, me dabbling into that lifestyle didn't happen until after I relapsed in Philadelphia or whatever, and that was like a short-lived situation. It didn't even go on that damn long because it wasn't for me, you know. But like I was doing my thing in Asbury, like I was real, but those was people that I was like sort of familiar with because I grew up around them or whatever. And I don't know, I think I fucking trusted my fucking drug user. But I did, have sexual transactions with people that was in Asbury Park. Once I had like started getting real fucked up in the crack smoking, but it didn't happen right away. It didn't. And you know, a lot of people like wanted to sit and judge and do all these things. Like, yeah, Asbury Park so fucking small. How could I not sleep with somebody that somebody else know, or sleep with somebody family member, or knowingly or unknowingly? You know what I mean? It wasn't like I'm taking responsibility and being held accountable for what the fuck I was doing. You know what I mean? What somebody else choose to say that I was doing, whether it be a lie or not, that's up to them. But I'd rather like talk out of my own mouth and say my own piece, because like it's like playing telephone. You tell a person and be like, "Yo, it's sunny outside." To the first person, by the time it get to the last person that hear the first initial message, "Yo, it's sunny outside," a motherfucker have it. Oh, it's fucking thundering and lightning. It done hurricane. We had a volcano, a fucking tsunami, like extra shit thrown in the game. So that's just to be expected with folk and stuff like that. And like I had to be my biggest critic, because like I was allowing people to define who they thought that I was based off of the things that I had done, and that shit was like playing on my emotions. It made me feel so fucking low and so fucking bad that I had stooped that low and got lost that bad to where I was out there doing things to myself that I shouldn't have been doing to myself. And like I said, when I cried out in the middle of the street that time out in Philadelphia just before I left and I got myself clean, it was like every fucking day I was so freaking just like, ugh, with the whole shit. But because it was like that chemical dependency, I had to have it. And at one point, I was so depressed. I had started getting real depressed. I just like started thinking like, well, maybe if I go buy a whole bunch of this shit and just smoke it, maybe it'll bust my fucking heart so that I don't have to fucking continue to deal with this pain that I'm feeling. I was like masking like mad shit, like trying to figure out like I'm such a good person. Like, why is motherfuckers doing me like this? Why, you know what I mean? Like, I just want to live life, blah blah blah. I've always had that mindset, but then once I got wrapped up in the drugs and shit, it just like started really, really, really spiraling like downhill. Like I was dealing with a lot, like not having my father in my life, on a consistent basis my whole life, and then towards the end of his life, like I got those last, I think it was like 2.5 years to be able to see him and shit. It wasn't every day, but it was often as I could. Um, I don't know, it just was like I felt like I was losing everything, because prior to my dad passing away, like me and my mom was beefing and shit because she wanted to put people that she was in a relationship above us and not, deal with us the way that we were supposed to be dealt with. And it was looked at different because we was already grown when she came back into our lives. So she like, oh, y'all grown. It's my time to live my life and this and that and this and that. And I'm looking at like, how you saying it's your time to live your life when you ain't been in our life this whole damn time? So I had a big ass grudge on my motherfucking shoulder. I had like a chip on my shoulder. My brother Keyshawn had a chip on his shoulder too, because she came back into their life like trying to dictate and dominate and control them. Well, I'm your mother and you better listen. And like, respect is earned, it's not given. And she was pissed off that we didn't listen to her the way that she wanted us to listen to her. And I can honestly say that I think like out of all of us, I was the one that was more understanding and trying to be compassionate to looking at it from her perspective as well. But at the time, if you in the shit, you don't really, see where you played a part in the same shit at the time. But this is when I was first, looking at stuff. But I knew that I was not in a whole position to say anything like that. But at the same time, I was, because it's like, how can you be gone and then come back into somebody automatically trying to be a dictator? I didn't want to do that. Once I got myself clean in my life, I didn't come back into my children's life trying to be, into Marquise and my joy life trying to be dictating and dominating anything like that. But I did want to be a part of and be able to explain why I was going, what happened to me, the things that I was going through, honestly, from my own mouth, because my children were lied to a lot about me, or said, oh yeah, she getting high or whatever, but also through other shit in the mix of it, to where, like, you have a child hating you. I had my friends from school when I was in school coming back to school telling me, oh, they seen my mom jumping in and out of cars and this and that across the tracks, jumping out in and out of cars. So I had a chip on my shoulder about that shit too. Like, my friends is seeing my mom doing this shit. Like, I was humiliated and embarrassed or whatever. On top of being a motherfucking nerd and all this other shit. Like, I was going through it at that